Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. Covering this case, folks, I just want to apologize ahead of time. I have a little bit of a sinus infection. My voice is a little lower than usual and irritated a bit, but the show must go on, so I decided to come on today. This case we've been following, of course, Savanah Soto and Matthew Guerra. There are no, I'll put it to you right early. There is no announcement of an arrest or an impending arrest. There's been many implications that they're close to an arrest, but nothing from the police department. The San Antonio Police Department is keeping this extremely close to the vest, as they should do. And this is there's a lot of security involved in a case like this. Names get out there. Folks whose names are being mentioned, even on the down low, in the rumor mill, as we say, or even on social media, they'll flee the jurisdiction. So the police department purposely wants to keep this on the down low until they have something solid, not announce anything. And I know that's a frustration to the family and the people that love Savanah Soto and Matthew Guerra, but it's a necessary thing for the police to keep the secretive nature of it to only a few people, because believe me, it gets out there and it can create a big problem. So you're about to enter the off the cuff zone, true crime from a police perspective, police off the cuff.
There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped in 10th and Ranch Microbizer.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Folks, early on in this case, there was something that they call in San Antonio as a clear alert, CLEAR, Coordinated Law Enforcement Adult Enforcement Rescue. And basically, we have the same thing in the NYPD, but we would call that a special category missing person. And there's been some criticism that law enforcement didn't jump on this right away as a special category missing. But one of the things that disqualifies you from that designation is you're 18 years of age or older, and you're allowed to go about your life and freely move about. So unless there's something we would maybe refer to as foul play or some other underlying circumstances, law enforcement is not going to take an early report for a clear report, they would call it, Coordinated Law Enforcement Adult Enforcement Rescue Act. And again, in New York City, we would call that a special category missing. So they didn't take that as that. We're going to discuss that and what it means to the case. But first, I'm going to introduce to you my co-host for this evening, retired NYPD detective and straight out of Brooklyn, Phil Grimaldi. Welcome to the show tonight, Phil.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you for having me.
So, Phil, when I was talking about it's the equivalent of a special category missing case in the NYPD, and they call it clear in San Antonio, Texas. Can you criticize why they did not take this report? And would this have made any difference in this case?
You know, if someone comes into a police station and says, I want to report someone missing, they're of an adult age, over 18 years old. There's no apparent foul play. A person's been missing only for a few hours. A lot of times police are reluctant to take a report of that nature. If there are special circumstances, as you indicated, something out of the ordinary and unusual, person was depressed, talking about suicide, person, was a heavy drinker, something of that nature, that would would fall into the category, or if they were under the age of 18, things of that sort. You'd need something a little bit more than I haven't seen the person and there's nothing going on in this person's life that would indicate foul play. They're only missing for a few hours. That would not qualify as a special circumstance. So I don't think there's criticism on the onset. We don't know exactly what was told to the police when they went to report these people missing. However, we do know now that they were both the victim of a double homicide, actually a triple, if you want to.
Triple, yeah, absolutely. Let me play this here.
And tonight, the people responsible for killing pregnant Savanah.
It's loading up. So this is the video of the persons of interest that are wanted in this case. I'm sorry, it's loading. I thought I solved that problem the other day.
Soto, Matthew Guerra, and their unborn child are still out there somewhere. Before their bodies were found, a clear alert was issued to help find pregnant Savanah. Tonight, the night team's Patty Santos asks why that alert didn't go out sooner.
I have to come home. That's why I come home.
That's the plea of a family desperately searching for their missing loved one. On Friday, December 23rd, Leon Valley police say they got a welfare check request from the family of Savanah Soto. The expectant mother and her boyfriend, Matthew Guerra, were last seen on the previous afternoon at their Grissom Road apartment in a gray Kia. On Sunday, December 24th, Leon Valley police told KSAT there was not a missing persons report and that there was no cause for concern. But the next day, on Christmas, Leon Valley police issued a clear alert for Soto through the Texas Department of Public Safety. Today, we asked Leon Valley Police Chief David Gonzalez why the clear alert wasn't issued sooner. He declined our request for an on-camera interview. He did say that initially detectives were sorting out all the information they were receiving to determine what could be going on with the couple.
There has to be some indication that their disappearance was life-threatening and involuntary.
Allison Steele helped the clear alert become law in 2019, nearly 2 years after her daughter, Kaylee Mandati, was murdered.
The clear alert is like an amber alert for adults. It basically was developed to cover the gap between the amber alert for children and the silver alert for older people.
She says criteria for the clear alerts help ensure it's not overused and the public doesn't become desensitized.
There has to be less than 72 hours passed since they disappeared. So we're talking about fresh cases here.
In addition, a person must be between 18 and 64 years of age, and there has to be enough information to give to the public, like a suspect or vehicle information to help locate them. Steele says investigations have a lot of moving parts.
Outside of the law enforcement domain, sort of are left asking questions as to why it didn't go out sooner or why it didn't go out at all sometimes. But the thing to remember is we just don't know. These are active police investigations. So those of us, outside of those agencies don't really know what the evidence is on the table.
Patty Santos, KSAT 12 News.
So this was, again, I don't think this would have made any difference. One of the first things we would do in a case like this is we would run the victimology on the victims and find out who they are. And one of the things we would have found out right away is that Matthew Guerra has been arrested 5 times. And very recently, he was arrested for a weapon. And he's also on, not parole, probation for a domestic violence incident. So we would know all of these things. Someone in the chat mentioned something about what about the fact that she was supposed to give birth 2 days earlier? That could be a special category consideration.
Sure.
A reason that you would take the missing person report. But guess what? The police didn't. So would that have made any difference in what actually occurred, Phil?
Well, listen, if it went out earlier, there's always the possibility that the vehicle could have been spotted and perhaps they could have been saved. There's always that possibility. I'm going to err on the side of I don't think it's going to make a big difference. This sounds like it was a deliberate attack on these two individuals. They were executed, so to speak. So I'm not certain that there really was a great difference in time when this was reported, or that clear alert had gone out. Would it have prevented the murder of these two individuals? I'm leaning towards no, that it wouldn't have made a big difference, only because, as we stated, we know that they were executed. It appears they were targeted. This is not a random thing. We have a history of criminal activity in and around these two individuals. So with all of those things said, I really don't think it would have made a great difference.
You know, Phil, there's like a sort of national, international attention being paid to this case because of the fact that Savanah Soto was 9 months pregnant. And because of that fact, this is listed as a triple homicide, not a double homicide.
Right.
And then the circumstances that are involved in this make it especially egregious. Let me play this. We got some councilmen from San Antonio talking very tough on the air here.
Investigation into the murders of mother-to-be Savanah Soto, along with her boyfriend Matthew Guerra. The case bringing attention to violent crimes happening right here in San Antonio.
So again, it's having a problem loading.
Bill, the fact that it's a triple, I agree with that wholeheartedly, 100%. That's a 9-month pregnant woman. That baby was about to be born into this world. So again, I 100% agree with the fact it's a triple.
Map tracks the recent crime from.
Those are all the crimes you're seeing on the screen in San Antonio.
Those are a lot of dots.
Shows you that this is a hotbed for crime, obviously. And so the police have their hands full. And what it usually also means is that if crime is this rampant in this community, then the police are no strangers to the experience of investigating things like this.
Thefts, burglaries, and murders over the last few days. All the bodies of Savanah Soto and her boyfriend Matthew were found in District 7. Councilman Manny Pelaez of District 8 says the heinous crime impacts all of the city. He's asking residents to help investigators with any tips or information that can help police catch the people responsible.
That we will not tolerate crimes perpetrated on our residents here in San
Antonio. You know, this guy's got to be kidding. We just saw the map, you know, and he's speaking in this cadence as if he's fighting the crime. Obviously, you're tolerating crime because it's rampant. You know, it's outrageous. And you're a typical politician.
Antonio, anybody who did this has forfeited their right to be among us. When caught, I fully expect our DA to keep his word and to prosecute this person to the fullest extent.
If you'll remember, back in September, the San Antonio City Council approved a $3.7 billion budget that included an increase of millions of dollars to the San Antonio police budget. That money not only went towards hiring more police officers, but also the purchase of technology and equipment to help solve crimes.
So that you could see that politician was quite upset about what's going on, but you know, crime is rampant. You saw the map, so it's like they're not strangers, and they just approved a $1 billion budget to help them fight crime, technology, more police officers, all of those things. So I think that we can absolutely expect an arrest in this case, and to me, it would be intolerable if there's not an arrest. And having said that, look, the police, I'm sure, are working 24/7 on this case, and they're not going home at night. They're staying, and they got their special shoes on, and they're out there in the community pounding the pavement.
You know, Billy, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people don't realize when a heinous crime like this. Now, look, let me make this clear. No one deserves to die under these circumstances, whether you're involved in the criminal world or not. This is just a horrible, horrible thing. A 9-month pregnant woman was executed along with the baby, as well as her the baby's father, the boyfriend of this victim. So again, a lot of times we're on these things, and like you said, we're catching catnaps here and there, especially when you start to get a direction on where this case is going. When you start getting good information, you start zeroing in on a perpetrator. That's when, you know, the last thing you're thinking about is taking a nap or getting some sleep or going home. Things are accelerating. I don't know what the pace of this case is at the present. It does seem like an arrest is going to be imminent. but I'm sure there's a lot of moving parts to this case. And when you put that map up, Billy, the first thing that came to my mind is with all those little dots on it for specific crimes that are reported, that means there's got to be a lot of intel in that area. We're going to be able to shake the tree. We've talked about that many times on the show. I think you and Mike even spoke about it. Shaking the tree is very important. We're going to put pressure in the area. We're going to try and come up with a name or someone who's responsible for this. Give us a direction, and then we'll do the rest. The investigators will hit the pavement, and they'll get out there and they'll find out who's responsible for this crime.
San Antonio police believe Savanah and her boyfriend are the two people found dead in 2013 Kia Optima at a Northwest Side apartment complex.
My heart is broken right now. And nothing's ever going to replace her.
We first introduced you to Rachel Soto last night. Her pleas were simple: to help bring her pregnant granddaughter, Savanah Soto, home. Family has been looking for the 18-year-old since Saturday when she didn't show up to be induced. Less than 24 hours later, Rachel's pleas are now for you to remember her granddaughter for who she was.
She was a good girl. She loved sports. She played basketball with her brothers. But she was a heart. She was beautiful inside and out.
SAPD Chief William McManus says he's
So one of the things about this case also is that it's pretty clear that the shooting didn't occur where the car was recovered, so that it obviously happened at a different location, and they were transported by someone involved in this to the location where the car and the bodies were found. So one of the investigative steps, of course, I would be looking at, and the police deal with this all the time, is were there any reports of shots fired at a specific location? And in some high crime areas, they have the technology of a piece of technology called Shot Spotter, which is some microphones and cameras, and they can pinpoint where the shots were fired. I don't know if they have this technology in San Antonio, so then they might have to rely on the neighborhood to call in shots fired, and all the jobs would be memorialized on printouts, computer printouts.
Bill, could I make a quick comment on that?
Sure.
I mean, let's face it. If those bodies were transported to that location, killed in that vehicle, you're not going to drive far. The shooting took place to a close proximity of where those bodies were located. I don't think, no one's going to drive around for an extended period of time with two dead bodies inside the car. So I think it's going to be close by. Bill, you brought up the spot shot. We talked about that before we went on the air. If there was any calls of shots fired in that area around the time when that vehicle shows in the video that it pulls up to that location. If there's shots being fired anywhere in that area, that'd be a good place to start to look for the crime scene.
Phil, I 100% agree with you. No one's going to drive around with two dead bodies in a car. So the location of occurrence where the actual homicides occurred and where they were transported to, I believe, as you just said, were very close together because for those reasons. And then when we saw the video numerous times of the persons of interest, and I would imagine now with millions of people probably watching that video, that at least one or both of the people getting out of that car have been identified, or there's information coming in from both the street and anonymous sources in regards to who those people are.
Absolutely, Billy. And if they do identify that person, they may or may not be responsible for the actual murder of those people. Perhaps they were enlisted to bring the bodies to the location where they're found. So if you identify that person, I know how I treat that person in the box. I would be on them very, very hard and say, listen, you're going to take the rap for a double murder. First person through the door is the one that gets the deal. Save yourself now. We need help in this investigation. Point us in the right direction. Cooperate, and perhaps you can get a lighter sentence. You're not going to go before the judge with this video. We'll show this video and you're going to play this in court. You think the judge is going to believe that you weren't the one that had something to do with this homicide? So all of those ploys would be some of the things that I would enlist in the box if I do identify and get that person in the room to talk to them and to interrogate them. And hopefully all of that's being done.
Absolutely. Let me just
unable to confirm if either of the dead are pregnant and calls the case complexing.
I don't want to go into details about that, but again, I will repeat that it appears to be a very complex crime.
You know, initially they thought this was a murder-suicide.
The case originated in Leon Valley, who sent out a clear alert. We asked Chief McManus why an alert wasn't sent out in San Antonio.
This originating in Leon Valley, that's why I came out from there, the alert, clear alert.
Was there ever any indication that SAPD should have put out a clear alert of their own?
No.
Tonight, Savannah's family is left devastated after she is the second person they have lost in 2 years. Last year, her 15-year-old brother Ethan was shot and killed. Now they're hoping, as days pass, answers will come.
We were supposed to celebrate Christmas with her and baby. All she wanted was that baby. She didn't think about anything else. She was so ready to be a mom.
So, Phil, we know that this is tremendously involving the drug trade. We have spoken about this on other shows that we've covered this thing. And when you hear the case that her brother, her 15-year-old brother Ethan, was killed in 2022, what was he doing? Usually 15-year-olds don't get shot to death. Was he also involved in the drug trade? And I have to put 2 and 2 together and say yes. So as an investigator, I would immediately want to have that entire case folder in my possession or view it on the computer screen and perhaps bring in some of the players involved in that case. Of course, not the 2 people that are now incarcerated, but bring some of the players mentioned in that case, because as we know, the whole drug trade is a local business, and a few people run it. The top people are the power people, and then of course it's like a triangle. It goes down, and there's different levels. There's managers, there's money guys, there's lookouts, there's guys, hand-to-hand guys, and that's all part of the drug trade. So this, because of the heinousness of this crime, and we've mentioned this on previous shows, it's definitely drug related.
You know, Billy, excuse me, I'm glad you brought up about the other case folder, that other case. Very, very important. That might be a treasure trove of intelligence information in that case folder. There could be the whole case right there in that case folder. Now, if that case folder doesn't lead to, some leads that put us in the right direction, like you said, there could be a drug component to this whole case. So you're going to put pressure. You're going to talk to the narcotics units in the area, the DEA, if the feds have anything going. You're going to want to do maybe some buy and bust operation, put pressure on the lower levels and see if you can gain some intel and then move up. And another thing, a high presence in these drug locations, you're going to put a damper on the money flow. They're not able to do their drug business. That's going to get to the top, say, hey, the money's not flowing in, what's going on? And sooner or later, if they have to give up one of their underlings for something like this, they'll do it. You know, the big picture is, like you said, it's like a pyramid. The people at the top, they want the money to flow. So if there's something way down at the bottom that an incident happened, they killed somebody, they're very, very likely to say, listen, you take the rap, we'll get you the best lawyer in town. And, we need the money to be flowing again. Things of that nature have happened in the past, or they may just take care of business themselves. And you may find, 1 or 2 bodies and they believe that these might be the persons that were responsible for this. So it's a very dirty business. The criminal world has a lot of very, very dark, dirty elements. And when you're in this game, you understand that. Apply pressure at this point, shake the tree, as I said before, and you'll get intel, even within the jails. I mean, we've talked about that in the past too. There's intelligence units in every jail. This may be being talked about within the jails, especially people that are incarcerated for drug-related offenses.
Of mom-to-be Savanah Soto and her boyfriend, Matthew Guerra. The couple was found dead in a car at an apartment complex on Tuesday, 3 miles from where Soto was last seen a week ago. Tonight, police still searching for two persons of interest seen in this surveillance video. One person gets out of the pickup truck and exchanges something with another person who gets out of Guerra's car. If you have any information on...
So, Phil, I would imagine this is a pretty clear picture. It's pretty damn good video. And I would imagine they would send it to the FBI, send it to Quantico. They would enhance the video and they could get the license plate on that truck. Right now, of course, you can't see that. But you may be able to even enhance the video to the point where people, of course, that know these guys, that know the car, can ID them. And I would imagine the police, I'd be surprised if they don't know who these guys are at this point.
I have to agree with you, Billy. And also, you could canvass the area in and around. You see the location where the car came from. You see the location where the car exits. There could be traffic cameras in that area. There could be other video cameras. I don't think it's going to be that difficult to identify that vehicle. If it's not stolen, perhaps you're going to have the perpetrator that was there placing those bodies there, or part of the whole, triple homicide. So it's not going to be that difficult. Good legwork, good police work. Detectives will be out there pounding the beat, and they'll come up with the answers to know who those individuals are.
In this case, call SAPD and you can remain anonymous. The case is being followed nationwide and theories are floating around social media.
That's not helping the situation. That's not helping the process. Like, all they're doing is slowing down the process.
Savanah Soto's family says while they appreciate so many people wanting justice for Savanah, Matthew, and their unborn son, they also say all the attention is overwhelming and at times hurtful. As Fox SA's Stephanie Esquivel explains, they are worried misinformation on social media could interfere with the investigation.
You know that some person was involved, or whoever was involved. Yes, of course, we ask that you come forward. But if you're just assuming or trying, oh yes, this dude looks like him, and like.
don't need that. Savanah Soto's aunt, Valerie Mendoza, hopes anyone with information on who could be responsible for the deaths of Savanah, her boyfriend Matthew Guerra, and their unborn son Fabian will step forward. With more than 150,000 members on the Find Savanah Soto Facebook group page, Mendoza says the rumors, theories, and misinformation going around needs to stop because she's afraid it could hurt the investigation.
You're just slowing down the process, and that's not going to help any. Of course they have leads and they want to look into every single one.
Because detectives are following every lead, Mendoza says she hopes out of respect, people will stop speculating about what happened.
If you're not 100%, about it, then we don't want to hear it.
We don't want to hear it.
Just let the detectives do what they need to do. And I believe from the bottom of my heart that they're going to get who did this.
Phil, one of the things that you have to also be concerned with as far as law enforcement is that the criminal element on the outside finds out who the perps are before law enforcement does.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have what we would refer to as a retaliatory shooting or a retaliatory homicide. And that's a real deal. That's the real thing.
Absolutely, 100%, Billy. And I just wanted to make mention, there's somebody in the chat, You Are My Sunshine. She asked, I don't know if it's a he or a she, but they ask, shake the tree with a question mark. That's just like a police terminology. If you shake an apple tree, an apple will fall out. So what we do is we go out there, we shake the tree with people in the criminal world, put a little pressure on, and hopefully we get some information. That's what that term means, shake the tree.
Absolutely. And, the district attorney here, this case is called, of course, a capital murder, which is very similar in New York. What's a felony murder? Special circumstances, especially one here was that a pregnant female was killed, or in the commission of a crime committing a homicide. So that's why they call it, and it's just different name for it. New York would be a felony murder. Here it's called a capital murder.
Considering a private funeral due to that overwhelming response, but family members tell me that has not been discussed yet. We will update the story as soon as we receive more information regarding the services. Reporting live, Stephanie Esquivel for Fox SA.
That is egregious when you consider someone taking the life of someone, including an unborn child.
The killing of the couple stirs questions about the potential punishment those responsible for the murders could face if and when they are caught. Police call Savanah Soto and Matthew Guerra's killings a capital murder investigation, the only crime eligible for the death penalty. Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez says when a prosecutor gets a capital murder case, they review the file and present it to the committee.
I reserve the right to seek the death penalty in any case that I believe. When I say I have a capital crimes committee, and we all have a vote in deciding whether or not to seek the death penalty on any individual. But I want the families to know that potentially seeking the death penalty is a tool that is available in our tool belt, and that's certainly something that we will consider at the appropriate time.
The DA says in his 5-year term in the office, his office has pursued death penalties for only 2 other capital murder cases. But since there are no arrests in the death of Savanah and Matthew, it is too premature to say if he will be seeking the death penalty. The couple had a past of domestic violence. Guerra was on probation for assaulting Soto last Christmas. Bexar County officials say domestic violence increases by 20% during the holidays. Fox SA's Marisa Mendoza looks into the driving factors increasing domestic disturbances.
All right, we understand that they had a domestic violence history. He was on probation. But what this case is clearly about is the narcotics trade. It's not about domestic violence. And what got him killed was something that occurred in the narcotics trade. Whether he snitched on someone, we don't know. That's the rumors online. Whether he owed someone money that he didn't pay back, again, we don't know. But these are rampant rumors. And a picture like this that was posted on Facebook doesn't help to stop those rumors. He's holding a brick of cash that's about 7 or 8 inches high. I don't know the denominations to that. You know, and he's all covered in bling. He's making gang signs. What do you think he was doing for a living? The shame of it is his pregnant girlfriend, 9 months pregnant, 18 years old, and he, 22 years old. Their lives are over, snuffed out because of this poisonous thing called the drug trade. And, you know, most people involved in the drug trade don't make it older than 25 years old.
Yeah, it's really horrible that young lady was pulled into this. You mentioned 2 things, Bill. You mentioned gangs and you mentioned narcotics. Those are 2 databases that I'd be querying if I was on this case, looking for people to go out and try and interview, interrogate, gain information from. That shaking the tree, talking to those people that may be on parole. Parolees have no civil rights. You can go into a parolee's home. You can search it without cause, without a warrant. You could ask that parolee to come into the station house, talk to that parolee, see if they know anything. Maybe when you go in, you can have something that could violate them. Let's say they're not supposed to be having any alcohol. So you find alcohol in the house when you go in there to do that search. Now you have a little bit of pressure that you can put on that parolee. I'm going to violate you. Do you have information? So now we do a little trade-off. Let's make a deal. You give me some information. I won't have you violated for the substance, whether it be alcohol, narcotics, that we found when we came into your home. Those are the types of things that need to be done, and I'm sure they're being done. This case is going to be solved. I'm very confident of it. It seems like it's a high-profile case. It's very, very egregious. They named it a capital murder case, which means that the penalty, if you're convicted of this crime, could be the death penalty. So they're taking this very serious, prosecutors in that area of Texas, and rightfully so. I mean, let's face it. 3 people lost their lives, 2 very young people and a little baby. So it falls right into the category of the capital murder statute in that state, and they're going to investigate it as such.
Phil, this was posted on Facebook, and again, it could be a rumor, and it doesn't mean it's true, but where there's smoke, sometimes there's fire. And absolutely, law enforcement looks at social media, and many people that are in the drug trade, in the criminal trade, post their daily lives on social media, even to the point of admitting crime. I just want to read something here. And again, I don't know if it's true. Maybe it's not true. Please, if you post this, don't show my name. But I know what happened. I was one of Matthew's customers, friends. He got caught up by the police. He was in big trouble. They found all his drugs and guns and was going to go to jail for life. But they told him if he snitched on all his suppliers, he wasn't going to go to jail. He snitched on all of them. He didn't want to go to jail. He wanted to meet his baby boy. Somehow one of the suppliers found out Matthew snitched, and that's why they got set up. Matthew was going to re-up the next day. They acted like they didn't know he snitched, and they put him in the back seat, and they shot both of them. So I don't know if there's any truth to that, but there are numerous indicators that this is about drugs. This is a narcotics trade. The heinousness of this, the violence of this, the soullessness of this, that another human being could shoot and kill a 9-month pregnant female that's 18 years old, and the callousness of it, and the fact that they both had close contact wounds to their head, which means the gun was almost pressed right up against the skin, if not pressed up against the skin.
If there's any validity to that posting, it would be very easy for law enforcement to query to see if he's a registered confidential informant that was giving information, who he was giving information on. That would now be the targets of this investigation. So if that is in fact true, there's a great lead there that law enforcement will not have a hard time following up on. Someone posts stuff like that on the internet. Again, like you said, Bill, you don't know if it's true. You do have to take it with a grain of salt, but there are ways to look into that very easily for law enforcement. As I said, all informants are registered with someone when they come forward with information.
No, Phil, I think what happened was he took a collar. He took a collar in September, and he was on probation. And in the collar, he had a weapon. It didn't say firearm, but he had already taken a firearm arrest in the past year before that. So he may have gotten out on bail, or these days you can practically kill someone and they let you out.
Right.
And he was roaming around. He took another pinch, and this time he was going to get sent to prison.
He was going to cooperate now.
Yeah, so he cooperated. I mean, it makes sense that he was going to cooperate because his girlfriend's pregnant with his son. He wants to see his son. He does not want to go to prison. He's 22 years old. He's got 7 charges on 5 different dates. He's been arrested. And one of them, of course, was for domestic violence, where he was on probation. So all of these things lead to the fact that potentially that could be true. And I'm not saying it is because I can't verify, but you can bet the San Antonio police detectives know exactly why this happened.
Absolutely. And, what you basically laid out there was he was a recidivist. He had been arrested numerous times. Probably some of the crimes were the same crime, whether they be drugs, weapons. So now he's facing some heavy time. Like you said, he's 22 years old. He has a young baby on the way. Perhaps he's facing 25 years or more in jail. That's a long time, maybe even life. So the pressure was there that perhaps that could be true. If he's facing that kind of crime, it wouldn't take much coaxing to convince him to cooperate. Whether or not that's true, we really don't know. And again, there's so much violence involved in this gang activity in this area and this drug activity in this area that it may have nothing to do with that. And then there's also the possibility, and this has happened, sometimes you're in one direction, we think it's narcotics, and then something could come out of left field. I don't think that's going to be the case with this case here, but it's always possible. And listen, when things like that happen, you get information, you run with it. No matter what direction it takes you in, you have to investigate it. You have to run with it.
ESME, at least 4 involved, in my opinion. ESME, there's absolutely more than just the shooter involved. There's multiple people involved. And if you know anything about the drug trade, they work in numbers and they work together. It's like an organization. So there's numerous people in ESME. You're probably correct. There's 4 or more people involved here in order to carry out this coordinated hit, we would call it, because it was a hit. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Billy, do we know if the pickup truck is the victim's pickup truck?
It's not the victim's. No, it's
so there's
Perps.
2 vehicles.
Perps pickup truck.
Okay, so there's 2 vehicles. They're found in
the
that
second vehicle is the victim's vehicle.
Oh, that's
where the bodies were.
Oh, they were in the other car.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So that was the victim's vehicle. I wasn't clear on that. Okay.
Jimmy May, the police know much about this triple homicide arrest coming. Jimmy, I agree with you. I believe that an arrest will be imminent, but I don't want to be premature. Everyone's calling, oh, there's going to be arrest. And no one knows anything except the police right now. They're not leaking things out there to the press. Are they requesting information? One of the things that we would do with great success in Manhattan North is when it was a typically egregious murder, something that really caught the imagination and the sympathies of the community, we'd be out there pounding the pavement with actually a flyer that would say on it, "Help us help you." And we'd have a picture of both the victims on the flyer and describe the circumstances of what occurred, and then ask for the public's cooperation. Call 1-800-577-TIPS or call XYZ Squad, the 3-2 Squad, the 3-4 Squad, 3-3 Squad. Call Manhattan North Homicide Squad if you have any information relative to who may be responsible for that. It sounds elementary, but guess what? It works.
You know what, Billy? The investigators in this case, they may have a person in their sights. They may know exactly who's responsible for it. Now they have to have enough evidence to go out and arrest that person. Just because someone very strong or close, an informant is giving good information, that doesn't mean that they have enough to go out and throw handcuffs on somebody. They still have to follow the rules. They still have to follow what the prosecution is going to designate. Yeah, go out and make this arrest because they have to try the case. So again, people calling for an immediate arrest is not always a smart thing. We have to build a case. There's a lot of work to be done. They have to figure out the who, what, where, when, and how, and why. And that's not something that's going to happen right away. In a lot of these cases lately, there's technology, cell phone technology, video technology. That's got to be followed too. Where would it be?
Bill, that's one of the things they don't have back yet. They're awaiting the warrants on the stick. They didn't find Matthew's cell phone in the car, and they didn't find Savanah's cell phone. So that's one of the things they're awaiting, the search warrants and the information from the search warrants, from the phones to come back. And again,
that's going to show movement, Billy. That's going to show their movements. Now, when the cell phones were shut off, or if they were shut off, or if they were destroyed, whatever, you're still going to have some information from those cell phones. You're going to have text messages. You're going to have perhaps emails. There's going to be a social media that might have indicated, maybe there was a threat. So there's a lot of things that are going to come out of those phones, I'm certain.
Absolutely. And, I really feel that the family is getting calls. They're getting calls from all over the place telling them what happened, who did this. The father, the mother. You think they're not getting calls from the neighborhood saying this is what we're hearing? And even though it's maybe not solid information, usually in cases like this, rumor is 90% true. And you get a lot of information. The police can at least get a direction. And I'm sure the San Antonio police detectives, in conjunction with the narcotics squad, and the first thing I would have done on this case is reached out to the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration Task Force,
of course,
and get their help. They know who the players are. They know who Mr. Big is. They know what drug guys are on parole. Drag their asses in. Get them to cooperate. Get them to talk. Maybe they won't. Maybe you can violate them for something. You can violate someone very easily on parole, and that's how we use leverage in law enforcement to get people who won't cooperate to cooperate. Folks, if you're looking for a podcast that's police related and in a police direction, then this is the one. From a police perspective, police off the cuff. And if you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring that bell. And if you want to contribute to us, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels. And we also have a YouTube channel membership with, count 'em, 5 different levels. And you can support the Police Off the Cuff podcast, real crime, true crime, from a police and an experience perspective. So, Phil, we know that when we talk about the investigative resources used in this, all the kinds of different technology and all the kinds of different intelligence. And one of the things that can, in a case like this, that can be really, I advantageous to the police are CIs. And that's confidential informants that are out on the street. And if they're not out on the street, put them out on the street with the order to get us some information.
Absolutely, Billy. That's one of the real investigative tools of investigators and law enforcement. Confidential informants. Sometimes you have a confidential informant that's incarcerated, gives information, and then goes to testify. Then you have other confidential informants that remain out in the street. However, when they, when there's something like this nature going on, you contact, try to get information. Maybe they could put their ear to the ground, come up with some intel for you. And, the technology part of it is really, really so important too, Bill. And you talked about it earlier. And I think that that's probably going to give a good direction to this case. The informants, 100%, like you said, the DEA. And if they have a local narcotics unit, perhaps their own local narcotics unit could have been zeroing in on some suspects that they could put pressure on and maybe come up with information. And just real quick, a couple of years ago, I was involved in a homicide case. 5 days in, they had information that came in based on, it wasn't a narcotics case. It was a different type of a case, but it was a homicide. They put a reward up. 5 days in, they had the perpetrator named. Took 5 months before an arrest was made. They did a lot of background, cell phone technology dumps, video. They had to put it all together. Took them 5 months to get enough to make the arrest. I don't think that's going to happen in this case, but you never know.
Paul Yam Yam Subway Army Denton. Wow, that's a long name.
That's a name, huh?
What does waiting for the phone warrant mean in the USA? Is it to try and locate the phone ping and raid the house building at last ping? I'm in the UK, so it's a little confusing. Well, Paulie, what happened was the victim's cell phones were taken from the car. So the search warrant is to search their cell phone number because they don't have the physical phone, but they can still remotely recover the information from the phone to see incoming, outgoing calls, potentially GPS, and all kinds of things that are inside that phone that will tremendously aid in this investigation. But because they didn't know right away those phones were missing. So the Savanah and Matthew went missing on the 22nd, and the bodies were recovered on the 26th. So then they get up, try to get these phones, the warrants in as quickly as possible, but it could take 5 to 7 days to get that information back, maybe longer.
Billy, don't just think about it. Someone has to actually sit down, go into a computer, pull up the records of those cell phones, pull all that information out, and then turn it over. And then they're not working on just one case. That's the other thing. They could be working on numerous cases. San Antonio is a big place. Perhaps there's other cases that already had their warrants in ahead. So a lot of these phone companies don't have a lot of resources, designated to do these type of investigation. It could be 1 or 2 people. So it's going to take some time. They're going to get it. Once they get it, though, that technology, that cell phone technology is so important because the way cell phones work today, they're almost exact for location. They keep a record of the calls that were made, the calls that were received, the text messages, the photographs, emails, all of that stuff could be raised from those cell phones. So like I said earlier, it's not something that'll happen like in a Law and Order episode in 5 minutes. It takes time. They're going to get it. It's going to give them a roadmap of where those phones traveled. It'll give them a lot of other information. Just going to have to be patient when they get it.
Absolutely. Schmitty, thank you for the $2 super sticker. Always love the police off the cuff education and perspective. Schmitty, thank you so much. Great to talk to you in the last few weeks. Happy New Year. One of the things I always thought about was, at what point in January do you stop saying Happy New Year? At some point, it's
I think it's like a week, Bill. What do you
accept? It's 2024, and you're like, all right, let's put that Happy New Year stuff behind us and let's move on to this. The same tarot card reader said, how could she see he went to get gas? 2 cars were following him. They cornered them and took them to a place close by Guerra and something with the mechanic. I don't have a lot of faith in tarot card readers or mediums and all of that stuff. There's really no place for it in law enforcement, and I don't know a single case where a medium has predicted who did something. And they'll all say they did, but if you guys want to eviscerate me for saying that, here I am. I've never seen or heard any any serious law enforcement organization use a medium on a case. Phil, have you?
No, I got to agree with you, Billy. I don't put a lot of faith in that. They speak in general terms, it's a dark place, or there was water, or different things of that nature. And, when you speak in those terms, anybody can come up with something that might fit. But like
I'm
you said,
I'm seeing cars.
Yeah. I'm seeing a flash of guns and different things of that nature. They very, very generalized talk about a case, and like you said, I don't know of any case that was ever solved by a median. Listen, there might be out there people out there with some special powers and stuff, but I haven't seen it, and I don't want to knock anybody, but I don't put much faith in it.
Someone in the chat, and it went past already, said that the brother of Matthew was on one of the podcasts. And look, first of all, the brother of Matthew's got to be hurting tremendously. He's got to be in serious, serious pain, losing his brother and his brother's baby's mother. And so I don't know what he said on these podcasts, but as I said earlier with Phil, was one of the dangers here is another shooting or another homicide for retribution.
Right.
And, so many times when we would work on homicides in Manhattan North, we would go to the family of the victim and they would say to us, I don't deal with the popo. I'll take care of this myself. And we would always say to them, you want to ruin your life? Let us take care of it. Let us put this guy in prison for the rest of his life. Why you want to ruin your life by killing him or shooting him? Don't do that. We didn't always get through to them, but we tried.
Billy, I got to agree with you. That's I've had that conversation myself many times. The initial reaction by family members is they want to get even, they want revenge, and a lot of times we would put them in a room, sit them down, calm them down, say, "Listen, you're going to ruin your life. You're going to ruin other people's lives. Let us handle it. Let us do what we have to do. We'll put them in jail. We'll get justice for you." A lot of times it worked, but like you said, Billy, not always.
Michelle Noir, I hope I pronounced your last name right. Scared for him because he's definitely in a retaliatory mode. Absolutely. And you know something, Michelle? I think that he probably knows who did this too. I think he probably has a good idea. But, that having an idea and having proof are two different things.
I would stay close to the police. I don't know if I'd be putting myself out there if I was the brother of this victim, putting yourself on YouTube or whatever it is that he did. I try to stay close to the police, try and gain information, give it to the police, let them handle it. At the end of the day, you don't need more lives lost in this family. So think about it like that. That's just a perspective from somebody that had a lot of experience in homicide investigation and dealing with families. I grew up in an area where there was a lot of organized crime people and somebody would get killed, and boy, oh boy, everybody really remained quiet. So sometimes that's the best course of action, but stay in contact with the police.
Are gathering to remember his life. Matthew Guerra and Savanah Soto were found dead last Tuesday afternoon. San Antonio police have not given in.
Again, no updates in this case. They're keeping things very, very close to the vest.
I like that though, Billy.
And I do too. I think it's great because I think that they're going to come out one minute, one day and say, all right, we've identified the persons and they're under arrest. And, I don't know why this is not moving forward.
Any updates in the case since releasing this surveillance video showing two persons of interest, one of them driving Soto's car. KENS 5's Megan Reyna has been following the story, and she joins us live now.
So we've actually seen this video numerous times.
From the vigil at Woodlawn Lake Park. Megan?
Well, Deborah, the visual just wrapped up moments ago. We know Matthew's father just wants him to be remembered as an energetic young man who was eager to become a father. And moments ago, the family did release balloons. They were praying as well, and they shared stories.
The family obviously is heartbroken. The son, Matthew's 22 years old. He'll never see 23, obviously. His fiance, with 18 years old, 9 months pregnant, lost her life and her baby. And, you can't be sad enough for the people. And regardless what they were involved in, I'm not trying to be moralistic about what they were doing. They're still human beings, and they lost their lives in a tragic situation. And we have to recognize that and just realize that these people, they need time to mourn, and they need time to help the police to find out who did this.
100%, Billy. And just think about that poor little innocent baby, 9 months, pregnant woman loses her life, and the baby loses his or hers as well. So very tragic for the family. A lot of times when we responded to homicides, these weren't good people, so to speak. They were people that were involved in the criminal world, but the family still feels the pain of the loss. So we were always sympathetic toward the family. A lot of times, the people that we were dealing with may have been involved in criminal activity themselves. Does not mean that they didn't feel the pain of the loss, and we still have an obligation to investigate the crimes and get justice for the victims. That's what it's really all about.
100%. There's the Savanah up on the screen. A beautiful girl.
Yep.
18 years old. It's just so tragic. There's a picture of the crime scene. What happened to Savanah Soto? This picture that's up on the screen right now, when it was first put out, we didn't know because she was missing, and so was Matthew. Now we know what happened. It doesn't help us anymore. It's tragic. What occurred is horrific, and I have great faith in law enforcement that they're going to make an arrest in this case, and soon, I think.
Yes, I agree, Billy. The one thing I don't get with the young people of today. Now, let's say whether or not that money that he's flashing is legal or illegal. Why would you put that on an Instagram page or a Snapchat page, whatever it is? It's just so foolish to me because it's inviting trouble. If it's legal money, you're inviting somebody to come and try and rob you if you're flashing that kind of money. So ridiculous. I just wish that some of the young people today would just use a little bit more care in this social media world that we live in. Just not a good idea to put yourself out there so much, especially in that manner.
Phil, you could say that it's it's youth. It's the stupidity of being young.
It's so true.
Of
It's
youth
so
and
true.
doing things that I did some things as a youth that I'm not proud of, or I said, how could I do that? How stupid was I to do that? And luckily, I got through my youth with not too many problems. But this is a bad situation. Phil, you want to take care of this here?
Sure. Joe Murray, attorney at law. Now, listen, guys, if you find yourself in some type of a legal jam and you need the help of a criminal defense attorney, Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. So he literally knows both sides of defense. If you want to get a hold of Joe, his website is jmurray-law.com, right there on the screen. His telephone number is 646-838-1702, or you can email Joe at jmurray-law.com. Joe Murray is a big supporter of police off the cuff real crime stories, and we can tell you firsthand, he is a fantastic criminal defense attorney.
Yes, and a huge supporter of police off the cuff, and we really appreciate that about Joe Murray.
Good
This
man,
is
Joe.
the vehicle, and from what I could see, and of course the detectives, his back is covering the passenger window, but it doesn't appear to be broken. So therefore, the shots probably were fired inside the car, and we're not getting confirmation that there was spent shells found inside the car, although it has been reported by certain news organizations, but the police never confirmed that. So that would be, as we spoke about on another show, that would be a tremendous investigative resources. Also would tell us the weapon, potentially tell us the origin of the weapon through a technology called ShotSpotter that can measure the markings on the spent shell casings and see if the gun was used in any other shootings. So all of these things forensically tell us a great deal about what occurred at this shooting. And again, it appears that the homicides happened at a different location, and then the car was driven to the location where it was ultimately recovered.
Billy, super important from the crime scene. Shell casings. There are, when a gun ejects the shell, you may have explained this already. May I just give a quick explanation? There's a thing called striations that mark the shell when it exits the gun. So those can now, it's almost like a fingerprint. It can now be matched up to a specific gun. It'll tell you, the shell casing will tell you the caliber of the weapon. Now, if you have bullets that were recovered from the victim's body, perhaps they're not deformed to a point where they can't be traced. You also will have markings on the bullets, lands and grooves that will be denote the specific gun that they were fired from. So now if you recover a weapon, you can do a comparison. Again, like you said, Billy, you could also put it into the database to see if those bullets were used in another crime, same gun used in another crime. Shot spotter, again, we talked about that. That's going to be very important. That might give a better location where this actually took place. And if they do find the crime scene now, an extensive canvass can be done at that location to see who was there at the time we believe that this crime took place.
Someone in the chat asked what positions that the victims were found in the car. Apparently, Matthew was found in the rear passenger seat, and Savanah was found in the front passenger seat. It didn't indicate what side of the car, like if Matthew was behind the front passenger seat or the driver's seat. It didn't indicate that. That's the information we have. But it was reported that they both suffered close contact wounds to the head, which indicates basically an execution. All right. So forensically, that tells us a great deal of things. And also, we don't look, if there were spent shells in the car, that means the gun was a semi-automatic. If there were no spent shells in the car, it would mean it was potentially a revolver. It seems like the people that committed this crime took care, I don't know how much care, but some care to clean up the crime scene, to take the phones, to remove certain things. So in that perspective, maybe they wiped down prints. Could there be DNA in the car in regards to the killer? Absolutely. All of that is part of the science of this investigation.
You know, Billy, just to expand a little bit on what you said, if he was in the driver's seat at the time that he was shot and killed, and then moved to the back seat, there'd be indications of that. When you read the crime scene, you'd be able to figure that out. And if he was driving, obviously he would have lost control of the car if he was shot, and perhaps it would have crashed. I don't think looks like there was any damage on that car. So perhaps he was either in the back seat, someone else was driving, and they were both shot. It appears that she was in the passenger seat. Again, she could have been moved from the location to be put in the passenger seat. Doesn't seem likely at this point, but anything's possible. But when you get to the crime scene, you'll look at it. If a person shot in the front seat, there's going to be blood there. I don't care how much wiping they did. They want to get rid of this body quickly. There'd be some indication of it. And then you'd see a different positioning of the body into the back seat. And you'd also see some blood stains, I'm sure, which would indicate that the person was moved from the back seat from the front seat to the back seat. Now, if you can find a location where the homicide took place, you may have some blood stains there, some more forensic evidence. So all of that's very, very important. And when you get to the crime scene and you read the crime scene, that's when you start to put all of these different pieces together.
Yes, absolutely, Phil. Some good points. You know, one of the things, though, if this was a murder-suicide, one of the first things that would indicate, and it's already been indicated now, it's not.
The gun would be there.
And the investigators have determined it's not a murder-suicide. Yeah. But what you would find is the gun on the scene.
Right.
The gun would be in the car. The gun was gone. So you can eliminate that scenario right away. And sometimes the police in preserving the crime scene can't answer those questions right away because they can't go into the car until it's processed so they don't contaminate the scene. So these are some of the reasons why a lot of times people want quick information, and not accurate. They just want it quick. And if you want quick information, it will not be accurate. If you want accurate information, you have to wait.
Absolutely. That's a good way of putting it, Billy. And, we're certain and we're confident. We don't have access to the the homicide case folder. But we're certain that these actions are being taken. It looks like there's a lot of manpower in this case. We know the ins and outs. We know the steps that would be being taken. We have a lot of information that did become public. However, we don't have all of it. So based on our experience, we can tell what direction we think it might be going based on the information that has been put forward. So finding who's responsible for this seems very likely it's going to happen. Hopefully it'll be happening soon.
Schmitty, Sergeant Bill, if that Kia was their car, I wonder why she would be holding the baby seat in her lap. Who knows? Maybe someone placed it there after the shooting. Maybe she didn't have
Maybe it was
there.
in the back seat, and then they were going to put the body back there, and they moved it to the front. Anything's possible with that.
Right. We don't, a lot of the conjecture right now is just that conjecture. We don't have all the information. And the only people that really have all the information is the police. And they're being tight-lipped. They're keeping all the information very close to the vest for many reasons. Mohawk mom, cousin said a family member opened the door to the car, so was she lying on all her takes? See, Mohawk mom, I don't know. Again, that's that's double hearsay. Someone's saying that, so we can't take that as gospel. It's someone's relating that, and we don't know whether it's true or not.
Absolutely, Billy. And like you said, the only people that will know specifics about the crime scene will be the investigators. They were the first ones there. They took pictures, they took, diagrams, and they collected evidence. So that's who'll know the answers to those questions. And listen, anytime there's a big high profile case like this, there's always a lot of stuff floating around that's inaccurate. Leave it to the police, let them investigate it, give them time to come forward with some more information. And I'm sure we're going to get the results that we're looking for.
Absolutely. Esme, family members said law enforcement opened the car door. That's probably more accurate. If the car door was locked, they would have probably had to get emergency service or someone to get a Slim Jim and open the door. Or if they had a second set of keys, retrieve the keys and open it that way, that'd be a lot cleaner way to open the car door. So we're conjecturing about a lot of things. But as we said earlier, it's important to keep the crime scene pristine and obviously not break the window to get into it, because that's going to mess up the whole crime scene.
Well, Billy, think about it, though. If you get a 911 call of two people injured in a car, you get there and you want to see if they're still alive, you're going to break the window to get in. So I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe they knew ahead of time that these people have been missing and they might have taken care, but, break a little back window or something of that nature to get into the vehicle to ascertain are these victims still alive. Perhaps life-saving measures could be administered. So I don't know who was exactly the first person on the scene, whether it would be detectives or uniform patrol, but I would think the instincts of a uniform patrol officer rolling up on that scene is you see two people that are bleeding in a car, you're going to want to get in there quick and see if they're still alive.
Well, Phil, you're 100% right, because the first rule of homicide is the protection of life.
That's right.
Don't immediately put the yellow tape up and assume someone's dead. See if you can save their life if they're potentially still alive. You're 100% correct. And I didn't mean to imply that, but if they were, well, you can't ever say someone's obviously dead until you check their pulse and check for vital signs, but I'm sure it didn't look good. We don't know specifically when they got killed. We know they were missing since the 22nd and they were found on the 26th. So we have potentially a 3.5-4 day window there. But the science of investigation can maybe give us a better time frame. Body temperature, rigor mortis, alga mortis, lividity, temperature. But then if it was very cold outside, the temperature would drop anyway and wouldn't be a good indication of time of death. You know what's a really good indication is the cell phone, the last call that was taken if the person, in fact, answered it. But we don't have that. But that's why when they do pull up those records via the search warrant, that is, as we say all the time, a treasure trove of information.
You know, Billy, that's one of the first things I wrote down when I got some notes together for today's episode. Timeline. Timeline is very important. When was the last time that we know that these two people were alive, based on cell phone or talking to a relative or a friend? And then we have the other time, the time when they were found. So somewhere in between is the time that these people lost their lives. And maybe you can narrow it down with the technology you just brought up with the cell phone. Maybe texts were being sent, and you have a timestamp on when those texts were being sent, a call being made. And if that call is being made, you have just a record of the call. Now you're going to want to go talk to the person that received the call. Did you talk to Mrs. Soto, or did you talk to Mr. Guerra at this time? And then, yeah, I did. And then you'll bring the time frame closer to the time that they were last seen or heard from. So all of those things, very, very important. When we talk about lividity is something, it's pooling of the blood, that if a person is laying on their back, shortly after they're dead, the blood will pool, and you'll see like a purplish color on their back, almost looks like a black and blue, or whatever position they're in, the gravity will pull it down to the point that is lowest in their body. So if they were there for an extended period of time, you would see some lividity. Like you said, rigor mortis comes in at different times based on temperature of the surrounding body. So all of those things, that's the science of homicide investigation.
Well, Phil, that's also very important to indicate if could they have been killed at another location and lifted and put into the car.
Right.
But there's other indications that if the gunshots were fired inside the car, that type of thing. And that will all be determined by processing of the crime scene information that we don't have right now, because everything is, there's still lots of rumor, there's lots of conjecture, unless the police start releasing more things, which there's no reason for them to do that. Someone had just asked, was it possible that the car seat was covering up other wounds? You know, all we were hearing about in regards to wounds was close contact wound to the head. We weren't hearing about any gunshot wounds in any other part of the body.
Yeah, absolutely, Billy. And to me, it seems one of two things. Either they were on the way to the hospital, she was holding that car seat, or perhaps the car seat, like I said earlier, was in the back seat. They moved his body to the back seat, and they just placed the car seat into the front. I really can't see any other reason for that. You know, it's anything's possible, but you know, like you said, it just seemed like there was those close contact wounds that they were executed. Horrible, horrible situation. And the detectives at the scene, crime scene investigators, I'm sure will have a better understanding of what actually took place.
You know, 100%. And, you know, as I said, a lot of, when you get a case like this, the phone's ringing off the hook, both in the precinct, the San Antonio police, and to the families of these folks. But don't forget, if this is a drug hit, people are terrified to talk about it and give information to the police because they're afraid they could become the next victim. You know, we use that expression, snitches get stitches and wind up in ditches, you know, and there is absolutely truth to that. So even though people are horrified and they want to tell and they want to give the police information, they don't want to become a witness because witnesses can wind up dead, you know, and that's why this gets very complicated.
Sure, Billy. Drug gangs and just gangs in general do yield a lot of power in that respect. They do terrify, and they, you know, they yield a lot of power in these neighborhoods. And so, like you said, people are very reluctant to come forward with information. I do believe, though, like you said, that there is information coming into the family as well as to the police. There has to be a network of informants in that area. When you put that map up earlier, it showed all the different crimes that were going on in the area. So when you have criminal activity, you have cooperation along the way, and you have informants.
Tracy Turner, thank you so much. That's that makes us come back the next day and want to do another show. Thank you for sharing your perspective. I've learned so much from your channel, and as I said, thank you, and I really mean that. Thank you for saying that. Texas Street Stories. The candle was left on because it was supposed to be a quick deal. It's no drug gangs. This was a crime with no planning, heat of the moment. Texas Street Stories, I totally disagree with you, but you have a right to have your opinion.
Why can't it be? Everybody's talking about this candle. Why can't it be that they just forgot to blow out the candle? I mean, it happened.
It could be that. Could absolutely be that they forgot to, even if you were left in a huff, you would blow the damn candle out.
Usually, and listen, anything's possible. And listen, this does not have to be where we think it's going. Stranger things have happened. It could be some type of a love triangle. It could be something that we haven't even explored yet. I mean, right now at this juncture, it appears that we're in the right direction, and I think that all the indicators are there. Could I be wrong? Sure, I could. There's no 100% on any of the stuff that we're talking about, but we do have a lot of information going in that direction.
100%. From Liverpool, England, the land of the Beatles.
Yes.
This case seems to have only got to me here. Nothing on the news in the UK. Feel for those who have lost loved ones regardless of one's past dodgy activities.
Of course.
Stephen, we feel the same way. However, we would be remiss in our duties if we didn't report the truth and just be like the regular press. Oh my God, how did this happen? No, well, we're giving reasons this potentially happened. And when you look into the background of the victims, particularly the victim, Matthew, it tells a story. And that's what police act upon, is the story and the evidence that they have. And they move forward in that direction based on the evidence that's being presented. And this has all the earmarks of a drug hit. It absolutely does, 100%.
Billy, for me in the NYPD, and I'm sure you as well, a lot of times, maybe 50% of the time, the victim of the homicide was maybe involved in criminal activity. Could be more, could be less, but a lot of times they weren't just innocent individuals. But that didn't change the fact that I caught a homicide, you caught a homicide, and we had to work the case, come to a conclusion, find justice for the victims. It doesn't change anything when a person is killed. A lot of times, if it's a really innocent person, you're going to want to go that extra mile, a child, something of that nature, but it doesn't change what you do, the pace and what you do it in. Like we said earlier, those detectives are probably working around the clock, especially when things start heating up and you're getting closer and closer to being able to put handcuffs on somebody. I said it earlier. The last thing you're thinking about is laying down to take a nap.
100%. Michelle Noir, do you think offering a reward would hurt or help this case? I think a reward always helps.
Always.
Yeah, it always helps. And something, if someone may want to sing because they see $50,000 or $25,000 offered as a reward, and they may come forward with information. They always put that addendum that leads to an arrest and conviction. Oh, it's not good enough to make the arrest. You need a conviction too to give me that reward, right?
You know what? When it comes to rewards, usually police departments will throw out a $2,500 or $5,000. Sometimes the mayor, if it's a high-profile case, he'll make it $10,000. But you're right; they say arrest and conviction. However, if a family member or anyone wants to put up a reward, they can say that leads to an arrest, and then they'll have to pay it when the arrest is made. So, people putting up a reward could never hurt. It always may generate the right lead.
Bunny, thank you for becoming one of our YouTube channel members. I love the little meme you have there. It looks pretty cool. Thank you for joining us. Nikki Mix 7. If the killers wanted the car and bodies difficult to find, they would have separated the bodies and ditched the car in a separate location. To me, this looks like a message being sent. Nikki, you could be right. Nikki Mix 7, you could be right. First of all, one of the premises I always go with is that criminals are not very smart people. So sometimes we give them too much credit that they're as smart as we think they are. And they're not that smart, And one of the evidence of this is that they're picked up all over video, driving the car with the two decedents' bodies in it. So not smart,
You know what, Billy? She could be right. However, I'm thinking to secrete the car so they didn't find the bodies, that might take longer, maybe put them at more risk of being found with the victim's bodies in the car. To me, it sounds like, or feels like, a spur of the moment decision. Let's just move the car over to this location, get it away from where we are, get it away from where the murder took place. They didn't seem too concerned about video cameras Unfortunately for them, that might be detrimental to them going forward. And like I said earlier in the show, there's going to be a trail where they came from and where they went to, where there'll be other video cameras. In 2024, we live in the world of Ring doorbell cameras, traffic cameras, video surveillance cameras, security cameras. There's just about cameras everywhere you go. So I don't think the detectives are going to have a hard time finding where that car came from and where it went to.
Absolutely. Carolyn Arnett, the people that did this are very evil people.
Oh, yeah.
And they want them to find them, but I believe his family, that he was tortured. I believe that in this case is bigger than anyone thinks. And I think that, well, Carolyn, I don't have any evidence of that, of what you're speaking of. And what you're saying may be true, but I can't put things out there and say it's the truth until it's verified, until it comes from the police. You know, there's always lots of rumor and innuendo in this stuff. And we try to present it as what, facts, even though I mentioned what the guy said on Facebook, and I didn't put that out there as a fact. I said, but this is like rumor. And believe it or not, the police use Facebook and use social media to find out things that they perhaps would never find.
You know, Billy, if he was tortured or any other injuries, the investigators, crime scene investigators would figure that usually on the scene. And if not, it would be uncovered and revealed at autopsy. So the investigators do know the answer to that, whether or not these victims just suffered the gunshot wounds or if there was other injuries or torture inflicted. Not, like you said, not reported to the public as of yet.
Absolutely. I'm trying to get some of you guys I haven't spoken to yet. Everyone should look at the dude on John Wayne, corner of Danny K on Google Maps. I'm not Joanne W. I'm not familiar with the area, so I'm not sure who you're referring to.
And those Google Maps are usually just snapshots in time. Could have been taken any time. I don't know if that's going to be relevant to the case.
DJ lady, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Zere. Do you think this scenario calls for witness protection for family members? No, I don't, because if witness protection would go out of business if every drug homicide in this country demanded witness protection. And just in the special sort of category, special case ones, will they provide witness protection? This isn't.
I think witness protection is for direct witnesses to something, like if somebody that witnessed this actual crime, that person might be afforded witness protection if they come forward with the information. Just the family members, I mean, they may have to watch their backs a little here and there. Perhaps maybe if there's threats, put forward against them, maybe police would provide a radio car outside of their home, something of that nature. But it doesn't seem likely, like you said, Billy.
Pam Ridner, Matthew viewing and funeral on the 9th. You know, one of the things we did, and you guys might find this a little bizarre, is we would sometimes videotape the funeral, outside the funeral home, to see who was going to pay their respects.
Who comes and who doesn't come.
Right, because many times the shooter shows up, believe it or not, or the people that did it show up to the funeral. And that is a huge source, and we do that on the NYPD. We do it clandestinely. From inside a van with tinted windows, they'll shoot the outside of the funeral home. And it's a huge, tremendous resource.
One of the other things we do is actually go to the wake, pay our respects. We want to keep our relationship with the family on a nice, even, we want to keep them in our corner for information purposes, but we also want to pay respect to the victim. I went to many funerals of homicide victims, and if it's someone close to the victim, the perpetrator, someone close, they may not attend the funeral. That's one of the things that you may want to look into as well. So good point, Billy. I'm glad you brought that up.
Sammy G, if I could say anything to Matthew's brother, Matthew and Savanah need you to be a uniting force of strength and love right now. Focus on that. Sammy G, you know something? I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of rage and there's a lot of street mentality. Let me put it that way.
I was just going to say that, the street creds. Everybody wants
there's a lot of street cred. You know, I got dissed. You totally dissed me. I got to show you that I'm a tough guy and I got to get revenge in some way. You know, I got the old take care of it myself philosophy. That's all part of this. And so even though I agree with what you said, that's not going to happen. That's something that we'd love to see. As I said, we hope and pray that there's no retaliatory homicide or no retaliatory shooting. That's why the speed in which they solved this case is pretty important.
You know, Billy, I'm starting to read a little bit into this case. Was a message being sent by killing young Savanah Soto? You know, if they wanted him, was he just in the wrong place at the wrong time, or did they specifically pick a time when they were together to inflict maximum pain to him and to his family and to send a message? And in these gangs, in these drug gangs, in these cartels, and just gangs in general, a lot of times they do these type of things to send a message, you know, like we just talked about. Street creds makes their street creds even bigger. So I'm wondering if that is one of the components of this case.
You know, Phil, it's all, you know, as we've seen a million times, it's all street cred nonsense, you know, and it's like, it's just like organized crime. The mafia lives by certain rules. So does the street cred, the gangs and the narcotics teams that are out there. They all live by a certain code, and they don't agree with using the police to arrest the people that did them harm. They want to take care of it themselves.
Yeah, the rules of the underworld. Unfortunately, jail has rules, criminal activity has rules, and these drug gangs and these gangs in general, they have a specific set of rules. And a lot of times, we know gang initiation in New York, they'll go into the subway and they'll just pick a random person and cut them with a razor or a knife. To be initiated into a gang, you have to inflict some horrible assault on a person. So, you know, it sounds really off the wall in a society where you think things are normal, but these things do really exist out in the world.
100%. Deb,
no
honor among thieves. You hit it right on the head.
That's a good saying.
Stephen Woodside, love the show, love the New York accent, would love to visit the Big Apple one day. Well,
come on down.
Be there for you, Stephen, when you decide to do so. Michelle Noir, but the mob didn't like flashy Gotti because it drew too much attention.
Oh, that's for sure.
100% right. Levi Lee, do you think the driver of the truck and driver of a car lived close to the area where they met and left the Kia? The apartment complex is pretty secluded and out of the way. I guarantee they're from the area. 100%.
Got to be close by.
There's always a geographic component to crime.
Mm-hmm.
No one likes to commit crimes far away from home. You know, it's
absolutely.
They'd rather do it in their own hood. You know.
And as we stated earlier, you're not going to drive around for an hour trying to get rid of two bodies with two dead bodies in your car. You know, it's going to be quick.
Right. Absolutely. Phil, you know something? We've been on an hour and 26 minutes. I want to thank everyone that tuned in today. There's no real new smoking gun, as we put it, information, but it's good to keep this case out there because it's an important case, and we like to put our expertise on it. And again, if you're new to this show and you're not subscribed, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, give us a thumbs up, and share us with your friends and family. Phil, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts are this. This is a horrible, horrific crime that took place. These two people, no matter what they were involved in, did not deserve, and that little baby did not deserve the fate that they were met with. Let's keep a little prayer and a good thought for these people that justice is brought for them. A lot of times these cases do take time to solve. I got a feeling that this is not going to be a long one, though. It seems like there's a great direction that the police may be going in. From my mouth to God's ears, let's get justice for these people. And let's hope, like you said, Billy, earlier, no retaliatory crimes or homicides related to this case. Let law enforcement handle it. Let justice be doled out by law enforcement. And let's hope and pray for all of the victims and the families that they do get the justice that they deserve.
100%. Folks, I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories, on behalf of myself and retired NYPD Detective Phil Grimaldi. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and God bless.
Stay safe, everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.